And he realized, this guy knows everything, and I don't know anything what I'm doing with my life. He was very impressed by Prabhupada. And then he was, again, wandering here and there, and somehow he was staying with some friends, and one of them had a first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And he said, I don't understand this at all, maybe you like it. So he gave the book to Dhritarashtra. And it was just, as Panchagoda was telling us that story about, Vidura coming and telling him, you're living here like a dog, taking the scraps of those people who you just killed killed everybody, and they've killed all your sons and grandsons, everyone, and you're just living here taking scraps from their table like a dog, Get out of here, go to the north and dedicate your life to Krishna consciousness, So that impressed him out going north. So somehow he just hitchhiked up north, and he finally got as far as Vancouver. And he ran into the devotees there in Vancouver, and he moved into the temple and began to execute Krishna consciousness. And eventually Srila Prabhupada came there and named him Dhritarashtra, which people find very interesting, but that was because that was his inspiration, was go north and dedicate yourself to Krishna consciousness. And because he joined in Vancouver, I'm sure I must know him, but I don't have any memory of Dhritarashtra from the time I was president of Portland. And somehow the three temples, Portland, Seattle, and Vancouver, we had this sweet relationship. There's so many temples, you're coming in our Sankirtan area, there's so much tension between some temples, But somehow or other, at least every 3 months, all three temples would get together somewhere. Either get together in Portland for our Puspabhisheka festival, or we go to Vancouver, or we go to Seattle. Every 3 months, there was such sweet relationship between these three temples. So I should know him from that time, but I don't have any memory of Dhritarashtra from that time. But, He was on Sankirtan, all right. But still, I think I should have known about him, because I knew most of the devotees. Wonderful devotee there was Bahudak, was president of Vancouver. He was such a sweet devotee, another nice Vaishnava. So, anyway, somehow or other, eventually I ended up here in Vrindavan. It was a very difficult time for Vrindavan because Bhavananda had been thrown out from here, and he took all his men and all his Sankirtan buses and everything, and somehow Pundarik and Dhrit, they came here to help out, and so I suddenly showed up, and certain reasons I couldn't go back to Colombia, because I always wanted to, ever since 1974 when I first came to Vrindavan, I always wanted to be here. I just felt somehow this is my place, And I always wanted to be here, but I was always temple president or something, so my GBC would never give me permission. But somehow in 1984, I couldn't leave my, I was always, couldn't leave, irresponsibly leave my responsible service, but somehow my responsible service irresponsibly left me. So there was no question of going back to Colombia, so I always wanted to be in Vrindavan, so I thought, this is great, And Pundarik invited me, why don't you come on our bus party? We're traveling around and preaching and making life members and distributing books. And I said, great. So then I met Dhritarashtra, and we traveled together, all of us, Pundarik, myself, and Dhritarashtra, UP, MP, Rajasthan. And Dhritarashtra, he would always come and go. He would get tired of the opulence of the West, that nice, rich prasadam, so he would come here and he would preach with us, and then he'd get tired of austerity, because it was really austere in those days, as people have been talking, that, there was no bottled water. All we had to do, we could only drink limca and other So eventually he'd get tired of the austerities. He'd go back to the West and have nice prasadam. He always loved prasadam. Tulsi just told me that's why he married her, because she was a gourmet cook. So, and then I remember he was staying in Dhritarashtra, and I remember going and taking Tulsi's nice prasad in his house, and so many things. And then finally Dhritarashtra moved here, and I can remember those days over in just near Govinda Maharaj. There was some apartment that they were staying, and we would always have these pancake breakfasts. Somehow whether we get everything together and bring a nice pancake mix from the West and maple syrup, and somebody from Gitanagari would always give us nice maple syrup and lots of butter and honey. So he was always such a pleasant personality, and like Krishnamurti said, he was always so enthusiastic. I would look forward to go to. I'm not sure if I was more anxious to see the deities or see Dhritarashtra there, see him seeing the deities, because he was always so enthusiastic to take darshan of Gaurnitai, Krishna Balaram, Radha Shyam Sundar. And I know he was just such a sweet Vaishnava, and I was shocked while we were traveling. All of a sudden, we heard this thing that he'd gone to the hospital in Mayapur just a couple of months ago, just December, and he had some sort of pneumonia, and they said something else is wrong. We can't figure it out. So he went off to Bombay, and they said he had 4th stage cancer, and so they wanted to do chemo. He said, forget it, and he just, he wanted to go to Vrindavan. That's the thing to do. That was taught by Prabhupada, to go to, if you're at the end of your life, you should go to Vrindavan. So he came here. I went to see him. I thought he was going to last for some time, because I seen people die from cancer, and somehow they just go on and on and on. And I saw him, and he was so very happy to see me, and I was thinking, well, he's in here for the long haul, because he was, I watched people die from cancer. They get turned into skeletons. He was quite plump, and I thought he's going to last for a long time. The only problem was his oxygen tube up his nose. That was the only difficulty. He said he's absolutely no pain. I've seen people with cancer just taking tons of, but somehow Radharani was so merciful to him. No pain, no problem, no nothing. Just all of a sudden, very what's his name, Arjun and Mahabahu. He was on Vrindavan Prikrama. It was a Vijay. Of course, we did the vrat the next day on Dwadasi, but actually it was Ekadasi day. It was Ekadasi day that day. So Vijay Ekadasi, he did his Prikrama, and he said, all right, I have to go. Something tells me I should go see Dritz. And he came, and he saw Dritz appeared to be sleeping very sweetly, and he was watching, and his breathing went down and stopped, and he called the doctors. They think he's gone, The doctor said, no, he's just sleeping, Then they checked everything, and he was gone. Just Radharani was so merciful to him. Such a glorious death, no pain, no problem, no nothing, And like Gaurnitai Maharaj said, he was always there every day for of course, any time of the day you go by, he was always sitting in the temple room listening to kirtan or listening to class. And he was such a wonderful Vaishnava, just simply following the program, and that's all he did. He just followed the program, and he distributed lots of books for Prabhupada and did so many things, and Prabhupada's taking care of all of us. So Prabhupada just made an arrangement very simply, very peacefully, just like he was, without any muss or fuss, he just peacefully left this world. And I guess we all pray that, we can also have such a glorious departure as Dhritarashtra. And I was very touched when finally Tulsi told me he was always telling her, even a long time before, he would joke, and and this, of course, this last time, he said, no, when I die, I want Dinabandhu has to do the ceremonies. I was very touched by that. Huh? I got them married. I did the fire sacrifice. I did their marriage ceremony. So I've forgotten all about that. My goodness. My COVID memory is getting really bad. I don't remember that at all. So anyway, and I knew that my dear Arjun was going to flip out because there's all this black mud there on the bank, and I have to circumambulate backwards, and certain medicines I take make me off balance, you know. But once I heard that, I said, no, I don't care what happens. Even if I fall flat on my back in the Jamuna in the black mud, I'm going to, you know, go around the fire and set the fire. You know, it was really touched my heart that just was fixed on that point. That so, and anyway, we all miss him a lot. As everybody's saying, Gopal started, you know, it's happy, but it's sad, but it's also very happy because, and we just see that Prabhupada is there watching after all of us. We gave up our youth, we gave up everything, and to take part in Srila Prabhupada's movement, but somehow I see, in my own life, I see how Prabhupada is just taking care of us, you know. We always hear how Prabhupada has so much trouble. He went on a boat. We can't even imagine going anywhere except, you know, maybe across the Jamuna on a boat. It goes on a boat anywhere. Or now they have cruises, but anyway. And nobody there, you know, just even nobody came. It was just, they sent some company, Traveler's Aid or something. They picked him up and put him on a bus, you know. And I see that wherever I go, sometimes there's even kirtan when I come to the airport. Of course, you know, now I was outside the airport. In the old days, we used to go right inside the airport when Prabhupada would come. And there's somebody there to pick us up and take us back, and there's a nice room, there's a nice prasadam. I just feel, you know, the father never wants to see his son go through all the suffering that he went through. So I always feel Prabhupada's presence, that wherever I go, I'm just a useless person. Somehow I did some tiny service for Prabhupada, and he's taking care of us. And we see how nicely he took care of Dhritarashtra, and we can all pray that we get such a wonderful end to our lives also. Dhritarashtra Prabhu ki jai.
We'll hear now from Lakshminath Prabhu.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravanam Sharine Nivsasnurpa Satyadi Satarane. I didn't really get the occasion to serve with Dhritarashtra, but I've known him for many, many years, because I think the first time I saw him was probably in '78 in Vancouver. Although I'm from Montreal, but we would sometimes go to Vancouver. And the reason maybe you never saw him so much, or don't remember Dhritarashtra, is because in Vancouver they would send all the devotees to Calgary and Edmonton. There was the oil in those provinces. There's tons of oil. So it was like a boom town, you know. They were just doing so much construction and everything. And especially the time when they were selling paintings, there were all these new homes, so everyone needed paintings, so they were always selling paintings there and making tons of money. So they were very, you know, Baudak would always ship them out, go get the money. You know, in those days our temples were, I mean, we would get these buildings, but we had to pay the mortgages and everything, so there was always so many expenses to pay, so they were always traveling, and I didn't get a chance so much to travel with them, but I could see. And then when they came here, especially him and Pundarik, they had this crazy program which they would stay in Vrindavan, deplete their resources, the money they had, and then they would fly back to Canada, buy a car, buy more paintings, you know, sell those paintings, everything, get enough money. Okay, we're good for a couple of years. Then they'd sell the car again, sell all their stuff, and then come back to Vrindavan, you know, and then stay here for a couple of years as the money depleted, and then they'd fly back out, you know. So they had this kind of weird program going on. And I remember sometimes I'd come to Vrindavan and they'd invite me to these pancake programs, you know. And Dhritarashtra had cooked all these pancakes, and then some of us would buy a case of Thumbs Up or something, you know. We'd go in with a case, and some would bring, you know, some maple syrup and stuff and all sorts of things, and it would be like a men's party, you know. We'd be all, because Vrindavan was very austere, so that was a means of kind of, you know, dampering it a little bit from the austerity. It was fun. A couple of times I went with Pundarik and Dhritarashtra around Govardhan and a few places we would go. But from the very first time I met Dhritarashtra, you could sense that he was a person that was just very simple, very humble, and you could easily connect with him, you know. It's not like he had some air about him or some ambition or, you know, some trip going on. Sometimes you don't connect, but with Dhritarashtra, you just immediately bonded with him, and he was such a relaxed person. And I'm glad to hear the other devotees, because I'm thinking, well, maybe I only saw that side of him, that he was relaxed and kind of a calm guy, but everyone says that he was, you know. So, but I was always impressed of his. There was an element of detachment. Like, he wasn't all mental and worried what's going to happen and I got to make this plan. And he was just going along, you know, with the program, as everyone said, you know. And he was just a happy, jolly kind of person, happy to be a devotee and, you know, and be serving Prabhupada and distributing books and preaching and so forth. And so it was fun to be with him, because it was kind of relaxing to be with Dhritarashtra, you know. Because he wasn't into all sorts of issues and all sorts of trips. It was just like Prabhupada, and that's all, you know. I mean, and we're just chanting Hare Krishna. And prior to coming here, I was in contact with Gora, and Gora was in contact with Dhritarashtra, and he was telling me how Dhritarashtra was pushing him to do some book distribution. And we're getting old, and it's not easy when it's like minus 20, minus 25 outside, and you were supposed to go out and do books. And, you know, Gore's living in a small apartment. There's no big group around you pushing you to do it. It's just either I do it or I don't, but there's no, you know. But he was saying how Dhritarashtra was telling him, listen, Gore, you got books, go out and do it, you know, do some books. And then he told me, I was mentioning, okay, I'm planning to go to India. I said, oh, you better go, because Dhritarashtra is sick now. He's got stage 4 cancer. I was thinking, oh boy, I really hope that I get a chance to see him. You know, my wife and I just took care of one god sister, Yaranmayi, Priya Bhakta's wife. She was on dialysis for 7-8 years, and she decided to quit. It was just too much, so she was gradually dying at the hospital. So we were there, you know, chanting and trying to do the best we could until she passed away. But so I was hoping to come here and see Dhritarashtra. And when I arrived on Saturday, and on Sunday I was able to go and see him. And he was still just so relaxed, you know, not stressed out. And it's like, how you doing? You know, it's like, you know, I'm doing, you know, kind of thing. And he wasn't like, and it's nice to see, you know, because it's great to read books and, you know, all this, but when reality hits, you want to see, you know, where that person, and how am I going to react when this happens to me? You know, am I going to be completely freaked out? You know, like, give the example of the parrot that learns how to chant Hare Krishna, but as soon as the cat comes, it goes quack, quack. It forgets the mantra, you know. So am I going to be like that, forget about Krishna consciousness? But Dhritarashtra was really, really calm and just detached, and well, it is what it is kind of thing. But I was saying, you know, he had the oxygen tank and the whole, and I was asking him, are you suffering? Are you a little bit getting a little pills of morphine? You know, they put these little things of morphine on you now. He said, no, I'm not feeling any pain. So I was kind of glad. But then after visiting him, I was in my room and I was kind of going, okay, someone with stage 4 cancer, how long is he going to live? You know, I mean, because I was thinking, is he going to be stuck with that oxygen tank for months? You know, stuck to a bed. You can't carry that thing around, right? So I was thinking, boy, that's going to be hellish to just be, you know, like in a room, and you're still, you know, was still stout and strong, but you got the, you know, but he couldn't really breathe on his own. So, and I was even talking with Pancha Gowda about it one morning. Pancha was saying, okay, I'm going to go and visit him. I said, yeah, I'm going to go tomorrow. Then the next day was Ekadasi. So I said, I've got some parikram arrangement today, but I want to go and see him. I didn't expect him to leave so quickly, because I was expecting, boy, this is going to drag on for a while, and it's going to be pretty hellish in one sense, to be stuck there, lying in bed all the time, and So, I mean, as much as I was shocked to see that he left so quickly, on the other side, I'm kind of glad that it's over, and he's died in Vrindavan and detached and everything. I hope I get that blessing, When we had a program for this devotee here on Mayi in Montreal, and I was just expressing that, I hope I die of cancer, because it's a time you can say Haribo to everybody. If you die of a heart attack, you die of a car accident, it's bang, and that's it. You don't really have time to say anything to anyone. But, cancer is kind of, you get a chance to thank everyone for their association, and everyone can come and see you. So it's a nice thing. So, Dhritarashtra, in that sense, he was fortunate, and what to speak of leaving his body in Vrindavan. So I don't know if I'll have that fortune to get that mercy, but obviously he was very dear to Prabhupada and to Krishna, because not everyone leaves in Vrindavan. We've heard stories of people coming here, they're sick, and then they're feeling a little bit better, and they fly back to America and they die there, or they die in Delhi, or they die somewhere else, but not in Vrindavan. So, it's a very special, and he deserves it, because he was a really great devotee, a wonderful person, and I'm really fortunate that I got to know him. And Hare Krishna, Dhritarashtra ki jai.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Like some of the God brothers here, I haven't known Dhritarashtra very long, not from the 70s, 80s. For the last 2 years. Just sitting in the back of the temple, Krishnamurti, these same chairs, 3 chairs were there. There were 2 chairs there. This was a couple years ago. And they gradually let me in. But they didn't know if I was the same, if I was a conservative or a liberal in different things. But as time went on, they realized, well, he's okay. Yes, I was cool. I was okay.
They wouldn't let me come there.
No, you're a manager.
I wasn't allowed.
No management allowed. We talked about management, He was very mellow, but he certainly had his understanding, his philosophical understanding. He wasn't a milquetoast, As it started out, said he was a Prabhupada man. I expected to hear that every time somebody spoke. He was Prabhupada man, Dhritarashtra. I got to know him a little bit, He was all those things that you would like. He was very easygoing. He was proud of his Italianness, So, see? So we had things to share, talking about prasadam, figuring out where to buy the cheese for the prasadam, Initially, the talks were a lot about visas. We were all trying to get our long-term visas. All of us, Krishnamurti, myself, Dhritarashtra, just wanted to stay in Vrindavan, and we're all on tourist visas. And we all gradually got it worked out. He was one of the first ones. He went back to Florida, and he would WhatsApp us. He would send us a message saying, I just submitted my thing. Then he'd send a message saying he just got it. Then finally we all got back together in the summertime. We were all back here, so happy. He just loved being in Vrindavan so much. Like you said, he didn't want to leave for anything. And He would send pictures. Sometimes he would sit on the balcony, chant his rounds, and watch those cows. There was a goshala down below. He just loved it, you know. When new potatoes came into town, he took a picture of the new potatoes, put it on Facebook, put pictures of the deities. They all talked about him greeting the deities. I got to be the guy next to him. We would follow Prabhupada, little Prabhupada up from the Samadhi in front of Gaur Nitai. He'd be standing there, I'd be standing there. And then, you know, we had that relationship. I took pictures. You all know, you see me taking pictures every time. And I would post them on Facebook. If I didn't post them quick enough, I would post Mangalartik pictures during Nrsimha prayers. You know, if I didn't have them on there, he'd send me a text. Where are the pictures of the deities? Because he would share them. A few days ago, I got a letter from a god sister. She said, every day, she said, I would see your pictures you posted of the deities and Tatiksha. And she always commented how beautiful these deities are. And then she said, again, I would see them because Dhritarashtra would share them from my post to his post. So that was always going on. This is what he did. He just shared pictures of the deities. He was showing pictures of Prabhupada. And we'd be back at the temple. She said, my wife knows, we'd be back there looking at the phone, seeing what the rate was for the rupee. You know, because you're living in India. That was our goal, just live here in Vrindavan. And that went on for months. I visited him a few times. Eventually, he gave me his bread machine because he wasn't baking bread. So then I was baking bread, bringing him bread, bringing sauerkraut, this and that. So I got to know him. Like you say, everyone's such a pleasant person. Being in Vrindavan, I see it just gets more and more difficult. Watching these people you know, or you know through Prabhupada, their service to Prabhupada. But him somehow or other, just sitting there in that chair every day, we got close, you know, in a way. Like I said, I haven't known him a long time, but it really leaves a space in there now. Just the other day, we started going back, sitting there in the chair. It's like there's one less chair. He would put his bag there. He had hankies. There were reserved seating only for us. Sometimes others would come. But I just wanted to, he was so happy here. You know, it's all he wanted to do. And then when he did leave, my wife took a picture just a couple days. Just a group of us were there. It was like the last time. And when he was leaving, nobody, any of us there, as soon as you hear they're leaving Vrindavan to go back to the U.S., nobody wants to do it. You have to do it for one reason or another, usually for visa purposes or just do something. But even was leaving to go there. And it's like, oh, no, no, don't leave, don't leave. And then we know the sequence of events. He goes to Mayapur breathing. And then we found out. And I spoke with his very old friend, Bhima. No, not Bhima. Yeah, from kindergarten. He knew him from kindergarten. So he was the one always talking with him and saying. So I sent Bhima a text. And in the text I said, please tell Dhritarashtra we all want him to come back to Vrindavan. Just come back to Vrindavan. Don't get involved there in Mumbai in the hospital doing this. Just come back to Vrindavan. I said, please tell him we want him to come back to Vrindavan. So then an hour or two later I said, did you speak with him about, you know, what I had said? He said, no. He said, I just forwarded the text to him. Which that isn't what I wanted to do because I felt a little funny, you know, because I was begging, please have him come back. Anyway, that was it. He was coming back. Like I say, he came back, and he was ready. You know, he was ready to still sit there in the back of the temple room. He said, you know, I'm going to have to be in a wheelchair now, he said, but, you know, I'll come back. You know, I have to get the car. We were arranging the car for him in the morning to come to the temple. It was just like everything was just going to go on the same. And yeah, so anyway, we went and saw them one time. I thought, phew, everything, you never know, Vrindavan's such an amazing place. You never know what's going to happen, you know. So we turn around and God bless them, what a wonderful time. You know, I saw, with my wife who died of cancer, I saw kind of that different thing. Months and months and months of suffering. Dhritarashtra, like it said, he was having some trouble breathing, but that was all. When I saw him, I was asking him what I should bring, bread, you know. Should I bring bread? Should I bring sauerkraut? Anyway, I was very happy to get to know him, and I see this. Vrindavan just trains you up in the art of separation sometimes, I think. It seems like we are constantly getting separated from so many wonderful devotees. And he was a wonderful devotee, completely devoted, as I said, to the deities, to Prabhupada. We had that program. He had his program every day, happy chanting, cooking. Dhritarashtra Prabhu ki jai. Oh, ladies first. No, seniors already spoke. Juniors spoke.
Hare Krishna. Not so far. I've known Dhritarashtra Prabhu because of the pick, collecting. No, collecting. Whenever he would come back, go back to the west from Vrindavan, we would all somehow end up in the same event, collecting. But before we even start the event, him and Gargamuni would always talk about where we're going to go eat that night. So it's always, prasadam was, food, was his main concern. He just want to make sure we're all going to the same place. We're going to eat at Sabrina's in Philly, or we're going to eat at, it's all vegan place. Or if it's Chinese, we'll go to, what's that place called, Roy, in Philly? Vegetarian Kingdom or something like that. Anyway, when I came, I think it was 2000 in Vrindavan, and he saw me. He was married to Tulsi at that time. He said, you have to come over for prasadam. So I went over with, I think Chaitanya Nitai was there, Mahadevi's daughter, Chaitanya Nitai. And we went. I just remember Tulsi made such good prasadam, and there was like the biggest chunks of curd inside the tomato sauce. But his was like, she's a good cook, right, Haripriya? She's really good, He always talks about Tulsi's cooking. Over the years, collecting means it's like Sankirtan, but it's not Sankirtan. We would sell parphernalias in a concert or something. It's basically making money. And everybody would be so passionate to, I have to be the first of the line to get to that car. I'm the next. And he was just like, I'll go somewhere else and do it. He just walk away from, and he would even work the people who people work, and he would get money from them because he was an Air Force veteran, and he had his Air Force veteran ID. So people would give to him. And one thing the guys like to do, after they collect, they would share their scores, how much they did. And Dritz always was up there. He did really well. Like everybody said, he was a real gentleman. There was a few of us ladies who were out on the pick, which we had to do because circumstances forced us to be there. But there was a few of the guys who were always looking out for us. They always, make sure we were okay. Gargamuni, Dhritarashtra, Roy Krishna. And there was a few who were not very nice. But Dritz was a gentleman, is a gentleman. When he moved to Alachua, we live across the street from each other. And whenever Maharaj would come or something, Tulsi would invite us, so we would go over. when I got here, I wrote him. I says, "Can I come see you?" He said, "Yes." And then the next day I found out he was in the hospice. So I went to hospice. Before I went, I said, "Can I bring you anything?" He says, "Oh, bring me 400 grams of green grapes." That was the first time. So I brought the grapes. It was 500 grams. I brought it. Next time I went, I said, "What can I bring you this time?" He said, "Oh, bring me some cashew nuts." And Tulsi wasn't here then. And then 2 days before he passed away, Krishnadas Kaviraj had come visit him. So Tulsi, Krishnadas Kaviraj, and I, we were eating at MVT. We were honoring Prasadam at MVT. And then we brought him a shake, right? A blueberry milkshake that he really liked. And when we all went back to the hospice, and he was sitting there just shooting the breeze with us. He was talking, you know, he had his oxygen on, but he was talking, and Krishnadas told him, Kaviraj told him that when I come back, I'm going to get a wheelchair with an oxygen tank, and we're taking you to MVT. Because he likes going to MVT to eat. And 2 days later, I got a message from Krishnadas that Dritz just left. And I ran over there. It was like he had just passed away half an hour before. When I was visiting him in the hospice, he always talked about how nicely Mahabahu Prabhu and his wife was taking care of him. So I want to say thank you for doing that. I know that the day that he passed away, he asked Mahabahu Prabhu the day before that he wanted to eat pasta. Right? And they were going to make him pasta, or already made him pasta for lunch. But he left before he got his pasta. So, thank you, Dhritarashtra Prabhu, for always being a gentleman.
No, Maha, everyone spoke. Now it's your turn. Tell us how you made the pasta, okay?
Everything. Ja, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki. Sorry for my mixing accent, Argentina accent. I'd like to thank you in the first place, Other Panchagoda Prabhuji. As soon as saw the news, we covered everything is ready to give a support to Dhritarashtra Prabhu. I'd like to thank our senior brothers. When Srila Prabhupada departed, they say, now the institution, the divine mission, is in the hand of our senior brothers, which will give care. So, in the absence of the father, the senior brother is the representative of the father. So, I remember the Dhritarashtra Prabhu from Alachua was very sober from the beginning, very kind to me, and especially very respectful. I was observing him. Mataji Tulsi used to do seva there in Alachua. My daughter used to help her in little things. And I was very inspired by seeing, in that time externally, the impression of a serious, sober couple, very fixed on time, like this, very inspired. So then we associated in Alachua like this, in terms of devotional service. In Vrindavan, was a time for us flying out of the country. We have the cash, but we don't have a credit card. We went to Dhritarashtra Prabhu, very kind, always, very kindly, very authentic, only one personality. You know? In the church, out of the church, everywhere the same person. We say in South America, one piece person. Huh? Because sometimes in the church we are all saints, you know. But out of the church, anyway. So the Dhritarashtra Prabhu say, here in my car, my passport, everything, do whatever you need to do. So he trusts us very much. This was a set of reciprocations. He was very sober, like Sotakirti Prabhu says, very low profile, keeping, even with the capacity to show up and wear fancy things. I got many gifts from Dhritarashtra Prabhu, and I was thinking, I never saw he wearing these things. Amazing, eh? Because when I was brahmachari, some senior god brother told me, you should wear a nice chadar when you go to the temple, shave your head, because the people will think that you are very advanced, very refulgent. So, and when I got the gift for the Dhritarashtra Prabhu, I said, but he never wear these things. Such a humble personality. So I confirmed this thing during that I was engaged. He gave me the opportunity. He allowed me to do these things. Panchagoda Prabhu is the source of all mercy for us staying in Vrindavan. He gave us all type of opportunity for permanent devotional service that I appreciate very much. So Dhritarashtra Prabhu was always very sober, very introspective, no lamentation. As a senior devotee, he was playing with me as a senior good brother, because we was believed that he will get recovered. He will get recovered, right? And externally, he was participating in this plan of recovering. He was make me believe that he was convinced that he will recover, but he was internally firm, determined to leave the body according with the final lesson of Srila Prabhupada. Indeed, I feel very fortunate that was granted to us this opportunity to stay with him and try to serve a little bit from what all he deserved. So the day that the date of the glorious departure, I wake up 2 o'clock, and then I was supervising because I was checking the time that he entered in WhatsApp. And I have the strong feeling that he will depart today. So we was praying in our Hariram, thinking, praying, please don't let Dhritarashtra leave the body alone. So I run there with the breakfast. He refused to take breakfast. I say, let me call Tulsi. He said, what time is now? I say, 9 o'clock. He said, 9 o'clock. Very early. Let me call Krishnamurti. No, Krishnamurti is very busy. So do you want to eat? I will eat later. Like this. So I run to my home. I pick up Mataji. I said, run because we need to stay there. And he was breathing slowly. But everything was very much illuminated. Very, very, very strong spiritual energy. So during this opportunity, I realized that this is the best opportunity to put our heart, because we joined this mission to surrender our heart, our feelings, to the pure devotee. Dhritarashtra Prabhu always, I never saw a single spot of deviation, worrying, lamentation. So he keep up this external body according with the description of Dhruva Maharaj, Maharaj Kulaksekara. He say, Krishna Todiya Pada Pankayaram Tampayaram Advaiva Visatume. He lived the body like a Bhishmadev, completely Krishna consciousness, understanding the all, because the previous time before that is like a boiling the butter. It's a boiling experience that all karma, anarthas, everything which is in our heart, the all impregnation in our heart coming out. So it's very difficult to hide them, because death is coming. So in all the time we saw this the departure process of a very great personality, which is seamless, free, completely honest, and Krishna taking care of him, and we are very much fortunate. So he departed like when the baby fell asleep, because I was there, and I was confused. I told the guy, I think he doesn't breathe anymore. I was chanting. And they came with all this thing, blah, blah, blah. And finally, they confirmed that he was left the body. So he departed like when the baby fell asleep under the care of the mother. So he left the body under the care of Krishna in Vrindavan. So now we pray to have at least one atom of his determination, of his surrender and conviction, and above all, realizations of this process of transmigration. So he leaves so many things, items, underwears and everything, that I'm planning to wear in my last breath. And I beg into Dhritarashtra Prabhu, give me one atom of his courage, testosterone, realization to welcome this serious process of transmigration. Once again, thank you to the community, to our leaderships, to the senior devotees, which inspire every single day for our spiritual progress, that we can have this determination in the last day. Dhritarashtra Prabhu ki, thank you.
Right, Krishna ji.
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nivashesha Shunyavadi Pasajade Start. Before I start, devotion is very exemplary. Mahabahu, thank you for being with Dhritarashtra in his last moments. Before I begin, I just want to say I might get kind of emotional because that's the kind of person I am, and I did know him a long time. Though I have to say that I didn't know him as well as the devotees that he lived with here in Braj. And as Gopal said, he would come to the States. So 3 years before COVID, he traveled with me. We traveled together for 3 months. It was 3 months doing the football games, you know. And, you know, all the wonderful characteristics of Dhritarashtra that all the Vaishnavas here have already mentioned. I don't know if I can add anything more to that. But I'll just speak from my heart and see what comes out here. He wouldn't argue with anyone. He wouldn't speak badly about anyone. But it doesn't mean he was a passive person. If he saw some kind of injustice or something was wrong, he'd speak out against it. And he would post it on Facebook too. I know, because I never went on Facebook very much, but whenever I did, he'd be speaking out about something. And that's the kind of person he was. But gentle, loyal. He was a friend to everyone, just like Yudhisthira. Yudhisthira had no enemy. Dhritarashtra was like that too. I don't know anyone that didn't like Dhritarashtra. Everyone liked him. And Gopal was mentioning the clique here in Vrindavan for the pancake parties that you used to have. You said there were some others. I was one of the others. Because Actually, I met Dhritarashtra through Judd Barrett, another wonderful devotee who left his body some time ago. So in Alachua, Judd Barrett was here, Tulsi and Dhritarashtra here, and I was just living right across the street, so we were all within very close proximity to each other. And we all had a tight relationship, tight bond. I actually feel a little envious of all the devotees in Vrindavan, like Dinabandhu and Panchagoda and Gopal. I don't know you personally, but all the devotees here that Pundarik Vijayanidhi, who had a more intimate association with him, because his heart was here, even though sometimes he had to go to the West. He was always thinking of Vrindavan. He was always posting on Facebook pictures of the deities. So it was kind of obvious to me that, he was enthusiastic to share his love for Radhasham Sundar, Krishna Balaram, Gaur Nitai, with others. He must have felt that kind of pride. I mean, I've only been here, I've been to Vrindavan before, but I have to admit that this particular time, every day that I see these wonderful deities, these gorgeous deities, I'm just amazed more and more about how beautiful they are, how gorgeous, and how wonderful all the devotees here that serve, how much commitment and love. And I thought I wanted to get here a little earlier. There was a devotee that sponsored my ticket to come here, and I was expecting to get here the early part of February. I wanted to see Dhritarashtra and be with him. But by Krishna's arrangement, maybe Krishna arranged it so that you see how emotional I am. I can't even speak a couple of sentences without breaking down here. What to speak if I was in the same room? It's probably the last thing that Dhritarashtra needed was somebody crying, And although we all miss him, like was said before, Srimati Radharani didn't want him to suffer, so she took him quickly. And that's a blessing. That's a blessing. He was a wonderful example, and I was proud to say I was his friend and that we could work together, so that he could be here in Braj and spend his time here associating with the wonderful devotees here and being such a nice example for others. Dhritarashtra ki jai. Hari Bol.
Thank you, Hare Krishna Prabhu. Chakarini will speak now.
Jaivancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyo cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. I actually was not planning on speaking today, but as I was hearing all of you speak about him, I felt that it was my duty to share a slightly different facet to his personality, because I have had a completely different experience with him than all of you. In 1989, I was a little girl. My parents were sent to Juhu in Bombay to serve there. We were living in the UK at the time. And so we moved to Bombay. And I really didn't like Bombay. I was actually quite culture shocked. I was expecting, it's my first time in Vrindavan, in India. And I was expecting the Krishna book to come to life for me when I arrived in India, and I was quite shell-shocked. So after a few months, my parents, it was Kartik, so we came to Vrindavan for a visit. And the moment I got here, I was just like, I need to stay in Vrindavan. I can't go back to Mumbai. Please don't make me go back. Please let me stay in Vrindavan. And my parents didn't know how to make that happen. And Krishna was very kind, and he arranged that Mahadevi, who was married to Dhritarashtra Prabhu at the time, somehow had the idea that I should stay here and live with them, with Dhritarashtra and Mahadevi in their tiny little room in the guest house, with Mahadevi's 2 daughters. And I was like, yes, please, please, let me do this, let me do this. And so that's what happened. I ended up living in one room with Dhritarashtra Prabhu, Mahadevi, Chaitanya, and Gora. And I never really thought about this, but he didn't know who I was. I was just this random little girl who wanted to live in Vrindavan. And there must have been a conversation that must have happened between him and Mahadevi, like, how do you feel about this little girl just coming and living in our room? And he must have said, yeah, that's fine, she can live with us. And I'm just thinking, the kind of person who would be okay with that, it's just amazing, So I did, I moved in with them. And what's really struck me today about what people are saying, there's a few of the people are saying that, I can't remember so much about him. I can't remember so much about him as a testament to his humility and his lack of foot space in terms of energy. And I have to be honest, I don't remember so much about him. Even though I lived in a room with him. I do have one memory, though. I got very, very sick. I had jaundice, and I was basically leaving my body, and the solution that was decided upon was that I would go see Shamasaki in the bazaar every day to get, I don't know if any of you had treatment from him. You would go to Shamasaki's ashram or temple, and he would beat you with peacock feathers, make you drink cow urine, and wash you with mango bark, and yellow would come out of your body. And he would take me on a tonga, on a car, driven by a horse, and we would go every day. And I remember him sitting with me, just this random little girl, and he would get, in his tonga every day with me crying in the background because I was in so much pain. And he would take me and get me treated and then take me home. And as a little girl, I never really thought about it, but how amazing for a grown-up man to take a little girl that he doesn't know to the bazaar, get her treated, and come back. And I was very grateful for that. And then I left a few months later, and I just never really thought about him again until maybe 15 years later, I get a random message one day from Dhritarashtra Prabhu. And he basically got in touch with me because he wanted to apologize in case he had ever done anything to hurt me when I was living with him as a little girl. It was just astounding, the level of humility. It's quite hard to get an apology from anyone in this world. Never mind from somebody who never did anything to you and who you haven't seen, for 15, 20 years when you were a little girl. And his apology and his humility was so palpable and so real. It was genuine. I remember opening up my phone and just I remember I was in a room full of friends, and I just started crying. I was like, because you rarely come in touch with that energy in this world, True humility, true in the background, true genuineness. There was no reason for him to apologize to me, and there was nothing to apologize for, but he felt like he had to do it. And I remember writing this letter to him like, why are you doing this? there's no need for it, but I was just so grateful, and I was so touched by that gesture. And I wanted to share that about him because he really was really, in the truest way, a humble person, and somebody who did not demand attention, especially in a world where there's so much attention grabbing going on. He was just so happy to literally sit at the back. He was literally just sitting at the back, and I'm so glad to hear that that did not go unnoticed. Because really that is such an opulence and such an amazing quality. And the way that he left this body shows that that's the way to do it, you know. If you're in the background and you just kind of keep your head down and be a devotee, in the end you win. And he won. And that's all I've been feeling, like he just won. And I really hope that one day I can win even a fraction of the way that he has won. Jai Dhritarashtra Prabhu ki Jai.
Is there anyone? Gopi, you would like to say something? You were also there in the back, sitting in the chairs. Come on, say a few words.
I got wonderful association from him. In the last 2 years, I was in Vrindavan and I came to know him. And till the 5th of February, I got all the quotes of Prabhupada from him. And he was like, for me, Shiksha Guru. And I used to tell him to send me quotes, and he used to regularly send me quotes. And I remember I went to hospice, and I met him over there, and I jokingly said, I'm inviting you this time to my village, which is very near Goa. He said it's too late. He shook hands with me, and he honored the prasad which I had brought him over there. He was very, he used to share everything with me, even personal. I didn't know him till the time I came to Vrindavan, just for 2 years, but he shared everything personal with him. I got the opportunity to serve him, anything we wanted to do in his house, whether it was painting, whether it was with Aadhaar card or PAN card, whatever it is, he used to tell me. And I remember him telling me also that, Prabhu, I want some seva from you, because he came to know me after I knew Krishnamurti Prabhu and introduced him to me. And he told me that, Prabhu, I have come to Vrindavan way back, and I was a brahmachari in the Vrindavan temple, and I didn't work exactly in the US, so I get a very paltry social security of $335 US, and this is how I manage. And I love to eat khichdi outside at the temple, and used to have khichdi over there at the Food for Life stalls outside. So when I went to Mumbai and I said I'm coming back, and the day I returned to Vrindavan, I went for my Guru Maharaj to meet him in Vrindavan. He was leaving for the US, Giriraj Swami. So when I came back, on the day I came to Vrindavan, I heard that he has left his body. So I was at the hospice, taking care when Saranga Prabhu was wrapping his body in the cloth. I was there putting garlands. And at that time, I came to know his wife. I never knew him. He used to talk about his wife to me. She's a very nice lady. She was from the US, but he's from some other country. He used to, his talk with me was very personal. And I remember each thing he told me. And then I met his wife over there. And he had just asked me for a Aadhaar card form for his wife. She's coming here. You have to help her to get the Aadhaar card. I said, I'll do that. I don't know her. Maybe I don't know when and how do I meet her. So that was the place at hospice I met his wife. And that was the first time I met her. So that is only my short association with him. And that is all I can say about him.
I was not going to speak because everyone said the most important things about him that impressed me in my association with him. It's that he was very kind and generous person, and I knew him very close, so I never thought of him like very big devotee or anything, something special. It was just like ordinary dealing. But in the time of his departure from this world, he gave me quite few lessons that I want to mention because I didn't hear anybody mention that. I went to hospice to see him. I had some donation from one Russian Mataji that occasionally she would send for Prabhupada disciples, and she asked me to deliver. So I went and I gave him that money, and we just talked. Actually, he knew that my Guru Maharaj is His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj, so he mentioned me that, your Guru Maharaj came to see me in Bombay, and like he was very impressed and grateful. And then we were talking something, but especially if I would ask something about his dying, I noticed he didn't like it. And then for some time we talked something, and then we just stopped. And because Prabhupada's kirtan was going on, and I noticed that seems like all he wanted to do is just to listen that kirtan. He didn't want to talk so much. So we sat and we listened to that kirtan, and I felt like he was so absorbed just in that kirtan of Srila Prabhupada, just hearing every word and just being there. I noticed that, and that somehow had very profound experience for me that I want to keep. It's just like he was saying, he was very simple-minded. He was never person mental person thinking. He was very practical and just simple. So I think that was he was just simply listening to Prabhupada's voice and his kirtan and what Prabhupada was chanting about. And it seems like it's all you have to do is just simply listen to Prabhupada's kirtan, Prabhupada's voice. And that's somehow some experience that I feel like he shared with me. And another thing, I had understanding of him that I never heard him criticizing anybody, offending anybody. And then I think as a result of it, he didn't make any pain or bad impression on anybody devotee's heart. And I think that's why he left also very easily without any pain and without much suffering. He didn't have that experience in his life, to give pain to somebody, and I guess this is what also he got. So that was this to think that I felt like I learned from him, and I wish to keep with me. I hope he will bless me also with the same. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
I just thought of it. I wanted to mention it. It was about 6 months ago. There was a group on Facebook. You know, when you're on Facebook and then this person, so there's a group of friends, they always are involved in the similar things. And one of our godbrothers, he's running every day, running 5 kilometers, 5 miles a day, running, not trotting, not walking fast, running. And he put it on there, how far he ran, how many calories he burned, how long it took. Dhritarashtra, we're sitting there in the morning. These are the conversations, Did Prabhupada ever say anything about breathing? He said about breaths, which is so interesting. It was all about breaths, And I said, yeah, I know he did. I said, I'll try to find something, and I found it, And Prabhupada talks about you get so many breaths. And Prabhupada talks about the yogis. They live hundreds of years because they control the breath. Take one breath in a minute instead of 60. So in this way, he said they can live hundreds of years, you know. So I sent it to him, and of course, he's sending it to him because that was the other side. Your laugh said he was all very, very easygoing, but sometimes he would get into one little thing, and you'd think it's a little thing, but he was going to prove his point. And he started, you know, he sent him, this devotee, he sent them the Prabhupada said, that's it. End the story, right? Prabhupada said. It got to the point, I think the guy blocked him. But he was insisting that you're just wasting your, why are you running? You're just giving your breaths away, you know. And in those breaths, the other thing was the rickshaws, right? Just getting here from Chaitanya Bahar on bed, you know, you can't cross the border of Prem Mandir. So you'd get one rickshaw, then you'd have to get another rickshaw. And sometimes it was difficult. And he said to me just recently, he said, I'm thinking I'm going to get a bicycle. And I'm thinking, I have to see that, you know, him riding on the bicycle. But he didn't get his bicycle. Now I'm sure he's got all kinds of equipment he can use. Yes, yes. So we're at 1 o'clock or so, and yeah. Yes, right next door. And paneer, he did like his paneer. He was also putting that on his Facebook page. He showed a picture of his pasta with his cut tomatoes and paneer fried in ghee. You know, fried in ghee, right? Olive oil was good for the pasta, but the paneer was fried in ghee and added to the pasta. So he definitely had his. I don't know what we're getting today. We'll see. Pasta. Dhritarashtra. Jai.
We could pay tea.
You could use Go.
Sure. Okay. One more thing I want to say. Dhritarashtra, he told me, I said, there's this herbs you can take. Maybe it will help you with your cancer. And he said, well, I'm going down fighting. He said, I'm not just going to give up. I'm a fighter. He said, so bring it on. So I think partly he wanted to make me happy, so he went along with it, and he took the herbs and everything. But then on the other hand, I realized that might, by Krishna's arrangement, be what helped him to go peacefully without suffering all the pain of cancer, which, 98% of the devotees do. So I'm glad I was a part of that to help him with that. But this is just two things I had forgotten to mention. You might have got tired of the medicine. No. No? Was there something else? No, I'm out.
Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. His Grace Dhritarashtra Prabhu Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.